What I was thinking about last night is that what can I offer in 20 minutes that is going to be the most impactful thing? And that's all I'm going to do today. And I really believe this after 23 years. What I'm going to tell you, I love bands. I love long toss. I love yoga. I love a lot of things in life. If you were to say, Alan, whatever you've learned in your life, what's the most effective and efficient information you give me in 20 minutes? That's all I plan on doing today, okay? So do your best to really take this in. Having this on video is cool because you can watch it again. And so we'll start with that, okay? The mental game, for whatever it's worth, is broken down into two main categories. So when people say the mental game to me, it can be a very ambiguous topic, right? It can be very like, mental game, does that mean mentally tough? Does that mean, it can mean a lot of things, but it helps when athletes know, okay, the mental game is pretty much, what's my approach, what's my strategy? And you might say, what's my psychology? And then what am I doing practice-wise to get better at it, right? So if Lenny said to me, well, my curveball is good, but it could get a lot better, of course, you're going to have to practice to get better at it. And what a lot of athletes don't understand is that there's a correlation with practice and getting better at the mental game. We all correlate practice and getting better physically because we do it and there's tangible feedback, right? So if Zach, for instance, has never done bands before and he does it for a week or two and all of a sudden his long toss goes from 320 to 360, it's quantifiable. If his velocity goes from 92 to 96, it's quantifiable. So he's like, well, man, I'm going to keep doing this, right? Because it's obvious. The mental game's a little trickier because it's like, well, what am I really practicing and what are the results and how do I really know it's the mental stuff? Maybe I just got a new girlfriend and I'm feeling really good about life and so I'm really confident now. I'm way more confident than I used to be and I'm not really sure why, right? So what I love about the mental practice part of this is it's very knowable, meaning if you do it every day for a week or two, if you're not feeling more relaxed, your mind's not clear, you're less bothered by your statistics, and you're less bothered by who's in the stand, and you're less bothered by what level you're at, then to me those are very powerful, measurable qualities, right? So again, mental game, think about what's the strategy, which we're going to talk about first, and then can I practice something every day like fly balls and ground balls and bullpens to get better at those skills? You guys follow me? Okay. And we're going to do a practice, even if it's 5 minutes. We're going to do some kind of a breathing exercise. And we'll get into this later, but when you talk about practice and mental training, you can do a lot of great things. You can do visualization, you can do imagery, but at the end of the day, to me, some form of breathing practice is the key. Because why? Why would we center mental training exercises around breathing? Does anybody want to take a shot at that?
Well, when you relax your breathing, you relax your mind.
Exactly. So that's one huge positive already, right? That we're starting to learn how to have a more relaxed. Will we all be much better as athletes if our minds were relaxed more often? That's a given, right? Will we all be much better athletes if our mind was clearer more often? Will we all be better athletes if our mind was more disciplined or focused on what we're doing rather than we're distracted by something over there or something in the past or something in the future? Yeah? Here's a good one. Would we all be better athletes if our minds started becoming more consumed by the process? In other words, what am I doing right now? Am I committing to my focal point versus if I throw a ball, I walk this guy, or if I give up a hit here, I might be out of the game, or whatever, right? Or before I go to bed tonight, if I think about my start tomorrow and if I don't have a good game, I might get sent to the bullpen or I might get sent down. I'm just coming up with stuff that I've heard for 23 years. You know what I mean? This is just normal to a lot of people, maybe not to you guys right now. Okay, so we're going to talk about the quote-unquote the strategy part, the approach part, okay? Another term I like is game management. Okay, so we're going to first talk about that, then we'll talk a little bit more about the practice itself. So here's the one line I want you to take away if you can, which is why maybe you can rewatch this video down the road to remember this one line again. Do you know what this line's going to be, Zach, by any chance? Putting you on the spot. Be process-oriented versus being result-oriented. Okay, let's say it one more time. The main strategy we teach our players, be process-oriented versus result-oriented. Of all the things I could tell you to do in your life as an athlete and really maybe as a person, is to learn this concept of being process-oriented versus result-oriented. Now, who wants to take a shot at what that means? Yep.
Process is like your preparation and then everything that you put into it, and results is like, I want to throw a good game. I need to lower my ERA. I need. It's basically it's like not controlling the controllables, which is when you can't control the umpire, you can't control what the hitter does, you can't control what your fielders do, stuff like that.
And why would I agree with you 100%? And why would that be such an important strategy?
Because people tend to overstress those things sometimes when things are going bad. When you make that perfect pitch and get a double play, ground ball, and the fielder boots it, they focus on that instead of focusing on what they can control, and that's throwing the next pitch and the next guy.
And what happens if you are a result-oriented athlete? What tends to happen then if you're more in that world?
A lot more frustrations. I mean, you have a lot more ups and downs, I would probably say.
So, yeah, I would agree with everything you said. To me, as a pitcher, I know my process right now. If you guys said to me, what is your process as a pitcher? It's simple. I take a deep breath because I meditate basically every single morning. So my breath has a very powerful influence on me feeling relaxed, clear-minded, focused, not stressed, not tense, not anxious, not worried about things going on around me. That's a good start, just taking a deep breath. So that's a trigger for me. It's a connector. Secondly, I have a focal point. And my focal point, I can tell you right now, is the left elbow for a right-handed hitter when I throw a curveball. My focal point for my fastball is basically a four-seam guy. It's basically going to be also my end point, but my focal point starts there and ends there. But I will always have a focal point. In other words, what am I attacking? I use the word intention. What is my intention? Well, my intention is I need to, that's my spot. So then the third part of my process is, well, then attack it or commit to it. So I have three things. You're like, yeah, but what about the bases? No. Hold on a sec. I have learned from 30 years of pitching. I learned this a long time ago, and you guys already know your process, that if I do A, B, and C, I'm in the best position possible for me to execute that pitch as successfully as possible. I know me. If you said, well, what's your strategy on a 4-foot putt versus a 20-foot putt? I have a strategy. I know it. Now, if I start thinking about, yeah, but then if I make this putt, it's a birdie, and if I miss it, it's a bogey, well, now I'm introducing a lot of problems. Now, if you said, what's my strategy as a hitter? I was a two-way guy for periods in my career. It's easy. I get in the box a certain way. I take a certain deep breath before I get in the box, actually. And I look to see the ball well, because I know that seeing the ball well is the key to me executing my swing as well as possible. And my goal always was to hit the ball hard somewhere. So to me, that was it. Now, in a way, when your mind has a process and you really are good at it and consistent at it, this is the cool part. It's a relief to the brain. And the reason it's a relief to the brain is most human beings spend a lot of time worrying about the results. And the reason why is we're brought up in a society, and especially in baseball, where we're measured by our ERA, we're measured by our batting average, we're measured by if we got a recruiting letter or not, we're measured by if there's scouts in the stands. It's all relative. Now you guys are in the minor leagues per se. Well, it's measured by I'm in A ball or am I in double A? Am I in double A or am I in triple A? Am I in triple A? Am I in my first big league camp or am I in my second big league camp? It's never ending. Just so you guys know, once you're in the big leagues, it's whether or not you get to arbitration or not. Then when you get to the arbitration, it's whether or not you get a multi-year deal. Then when you get a multi-year deal, it's whether or not can I get a second multi-year deal. You see what I'm saying? The results and the consequences are always there. But from my experience, again, dealing with players, and I'm going to come from a lot of experience, when guys establish their process and listen to what I'm going to say here, and get great at it, get great at their process, they seem to flip a switch. They enter a whole other world of mental game, because all of a sudden now they realize, wow, I mean, I can just focus on one thing, one constant I can control best I can, versus 4 million interchangeable variables that can go on my entire life. Do you guys realize how many variables can enter your brain on a daily basis? I mean, a lot, right? There's a lot of things that could come up in our heads, okay? So the first thing I'd say is identify your process. And we did this last year. If I went around the room right now, here's the cool thing about your process. You will be able to identify your process in probably 20 seconds. Most of you guys probably already figured out your process while I was talking. That's how knowable it is. So if it's knowable, then it's in you. And once it's in you, you're like, well, wow. So just be great at this, and then I don't have to deal with anything else, right? Well, guess how our society tends to program us from a young age? It's kind of like what you said a little earlier. We tend to, from a young age, be programmed to focus more on the results, more on the consequences, more on what other people are thinking, right? All these other variables outside of us. Now, at some point, you guys are at this level for a reason. You figured out a way to have a good focus. So you guys have, getting to the level you're at, you've already experienced a good mental game on some level, or you wouldn't be here. So that's a given. So maybe a lot of this information today is going to be helpful as you move on in the game and things get more magnified and there's more at stake. What I'm trying to get you guys to understand is that if you can identify it, then your goal is to be great at it, period. Because we all just agreed that if I do A, B, and C, whatever, everybody's A, B, and C was different. But if I do A, B, and C, the question is, how consistent can you be at it? And by the way, this talk is going to be good for you now, because when you go to spring training, the first day, you're already going to get hit by a ton of variables. Your constant process is going to get challenged right away. Because what camp am I in, and who else is here, and who got left at home, who didn't, and what's the pitching coach? Did he show me bad body language today? Who knows, right? Can I make, oh, they put me in this camp. Well, oh, they put me up in this camp. Well, can I stay up in this camp? Well, they put me down in this camp. I mean, I shouldn't be down in this camp. Guys, come on. I mean, I know where this stuff's at. The question starts becoming, is that part of my process anymore? No. That's a variable, right? That's my head thinking about something else other than it doesn't matter. The best success I've had with players start locking into this and saying nothing matters. They can send me to low A 4 times in a row. I don't care, because ultimately I have to be great at my process, because that's what's going to make me the greatest player possible. Make sense? Now, the second part of this talk is, okay, so we've identified the process. We want to be process-oriented. Results tend to be stressful and whatever else cause pressure. What can I do every day now to start to change my mind to where it becomes more process-oriented? So in other words, it has more discipline, it has more concentration, I'm able to focus better. You guys follow me? What can I do every day to clear my mind, to relax, to build skills mentally that are going to help me not only be more process-oriented, but just help me be more prepared mentally? So as an example, if I, and we'll experience this here in a few minutes, but if every single day, if we got together and we spent 10 minutes doing some breathing exercises where after 10 minutes your mind was more relaxed, your mind was more clear, your mind was more in the present moment. Can you guys see how after a period of time that all of a sudden that becomes what I call your default system? In other words, you start becoming more of that guy rather than, if you don't do any mental training, maybe your mind is a little bit more vulnerable to a lot of the distractions that are out there. Can you guys see that maybe the mind is used to looking at the batting average, used to looking at the ERA, used to looking at who's in the stands, what pitching coaches are behind me today, what's Johnny doing, is he going to get moved up, am I going to get moved down? You guys see that's kind of normal in our society? So what happens is when you start doing mental practice, two major things happen. One is the mental practice alone starts building skills. I can list 20, we could identify 20 of the most important skills of an athlete, from confidence to relaxation to clarity of mind to absence of stress, absence of worries. So we can start to build these skills. The other thing that starts happening is when you do mental practice every day, this idea of being process-oriented gets easier. And the reason why is because if you don't have a mental practice, what tends to happen is the mind is used to this program that's buying into all this drama about my batting average and my ERA and what's at stake and what level am I at. What all the other guys are talking about, the stat sheets. Do you guys kind of see where I'm going with this? The mind, in other words, in our society likes drama. It buys into all this stuff. Your process is not about the drama. Does that make sense? Your process is not about the stuff. Your process is about being great at something and being consistent at it. What happens is as you do more and more mental practice, you give yourself a chance to not only gain really good skills, but you start practicing what it means to be in the present moment, to have a clear mind, to have a focused mind, to have a disciplined mind. And that starts becoming more of what I call your default system. Does that make sense to you guys? Let's do this. Let's do a little exercise, and then we'll come back to that point. That'll be kind of the ending of this whole talk. And I think before I get maybe too complex, I think it would be better to do a little session, and then maybe this will make a little bit more sense, okay? So I need you to sit in a position where you're really relaxed, but you're not going to pass out. So I would actually encourage you guys who are slouching a little bit because you're really comfortable, unless you know for sure you're not going to pass out. Just get your spine a little straighter. Ultimately, you can do this laying down. Right now, we're probably all a little tired from a long day. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to walk you through a little breathing exercise. We can call this relaxation. We can call it mental training. We can call it meditation. They're all similar words, okay? They're all part of a practice. So just kind of follow me. And then when this is done, we'll see what happened, and we'll see how it all ties in, okay? First thing I want you to do is just get your legs maybe a little bit more parallel and not crossed. The idea is you want oxygen and energy to keep kind of flowing, so you don't really want to block anything out. Put your hands anywhere you want that's comfortable. You can put it in your lap. You can put it whatever makes you feel good, okay? Okay, first thing before we start is whatever's holding you up, so most of you guys are on a couch, chair. What helps me a lot to relax or let go is I imagine that whatever I'm sitting on is like, we've all probably been on a raft in a swimming pool, and we probably all can relate to the feeling of, you know, with you be a surfboard. If the raft wasn't there, you just free fall into the water, right? So one thing I loved growing up, we had a pool in our backyard, is I'd lay on this raft. And with my arms and legs dangling in the water, there was just this cool feeling of like, man, the raft's doing the work. It's like a good game. When you're rolling, you can feel the game is kind of taking over. You know, you're watching a good movie, the movie's taking over. So for me, I love the feeling. And a lot of positive mental qualities come out of that when you let go. Because your best games, by the way, as a side note, usually when you let go, right? You just trust. So this feeling right away, see, this is one mental skill benefit we're already getting. Trust, confidence, letting go, relaxation. So let the couch or chair beneath you do the work, and try to get the feeling of letting go so much that if it wasn't here, we'd all just crash onto the floor. Okay? Secondly, you don't have to. I'd recommend you try it with your eyes closed. There tends to be less distractions and stuff like that. And what I want everybody to do is I want you to start at your feet. And if you've never done this before, it's actually pretty cool. And all we're going to do is we're going to kind of check into each part of the body and just make sure that we've let it go, or we may find some tension and then we'll let it go. And this is really good for mind-body awareness, regardless. So start with your feet, and then what we'll do is we'll just move our way up the body, and I'll kind of hit each body part with you. And something as simple as your feet, you might notice that they're not quite relaxed. You might notice that your toes are crunching, or your feet are up in the air. Try to get your feet to just settle. And then as you move your way up to the ankles and the calves and so on, just check into that body part, as funny as it sounds, and just make sure you've let it go. And go to the knees and the thighs. Go to your behind and your lower back, and just let it kind of settle in, kind of like when you lay on sand and it just settles in. And if you do find an area that's a little tight, that's a sign to you that, hey, let it go. Just relax it. You can tense that part of your body for a couple of seconds, and then it'll release. And then we'll keep making our way up. So we have the midsection, so the core, the rib cage, the chest, the shoulders, your biceps, triceps, forearm, hands, fingers. So from the shoulders down now, before we get to the head, hopefully you're starting to notice just a little sensation of the body calming down, of letting go. Maybe your shoulders are kind of pinched up toward your ears. Maybe you just need to kind of roll them back and down a little bit. And then we'll move up through the neck. Try to go to all four sides of the neck. Your chin, your cheeks, your forehead, your eyes, nose, mouth, ears, scalp, brain. And just do your best to just let things, again, settle. Relax. Let go. And now at this point, try to keep the body still. So when you're super relaxed, if you're laying down almost like you're in a dream state, the body is really quiet. And the idea here is that the more still the body is, the more still the mind is. The calmer the body is, the calmer the mind is. They work together, so if we can get the body physically calm and quiet, the mind starts to become calm and quiet. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is I want you to all visualize that from the head down to the stomach area is like a tall skyscraper. What I want you to do is visualize that you're entering the elevator on the top floor, so at the top of the head. And we're going to take an elevator all the way down 100 stories, down the spine, and eventually when you get down to the belly area, we're going to call that the lobby. And when you get down to the lobby and the elevator doors open, I want you to just know that you're now in the area that your breath originates from. That's your diaphragm. And so now if any thoughts come into your head up on the top floor, we're going to be okay with it. It's not good or bad. It's not relevant. Our attention, like the focal point, our attention is going to come back to the breath. And so for just the next couple of minutes, you only have one job, one focus. And that is, can you just hang out in the lobby with the breath, which is not a thought? And if your thoughts come into your head up on the top floor, can you just simply let them be and come back to the breath? And you can play with the breath. You can watch the inhale, you can watch the exhale. Sometimes it helps to count the breath, so the inhale is like a 1 and the exhale is like a 2. And the next inhale is a 3, and see if you can count to 20 or so. But this is like a little game. Can you stay with the breath? Just like your process, can you stay with the breath? And if any thoughts come into the mind up on the top floor of the building, that's okay. Just let them be. And just bring your focus back to the part of the breath you're on. And we're just going to do this for about another minute or so, and then I'll slowly bring you guys out. So just Again, this is all it comes down to. Can you stay with the breath, trust the breath, follow the breath, without any concern what your thoughts are doing? Just remember to let the body be held up by the couch or the chair. You want to really let go and let that do all the work for you. Your only job is the breath. Hang out with the breath. Trust the breath. Get to know the breath. And so what we'll do to transition now our way out is what I'd like you to do is when you feel the next inhale come into you, I'd just like you to take a slightly exaggerated breath through the nose. And if it's hard through the nose, you can use the mouth. And then as you exhale the breath, I want you to slowly remind yourself that you're beginning to feel totally refreshed and totally alert, completely present, energized. And I'd like you to do about 3 or 4 more of these breaths, where with each breath, after you take a nice inhale, as you exhale the breath, you're just going to remind yourself again that you're starting to feel totally refreshed, totally clear-minded, very present, very calm, but very focused. And just kind of let the breath let you know when it's time to come out. There's not a right or wrong time. I just want you to continue to take these deep breaths. And when you exhale the breath, that will be your cue to start again reminding yourself how clear and refreshed and present you're beginning to feel. So when you feel the next inhale come in again, we'll take a nice deep breath. As you exhale the breath, just remind yourself you're beginning to feel even more refreshed, more alert, more clear-minded, more present. Okay, maybe one last breath or so. Use this breath to start to make your way back out, feeling totally refreshed and alert. So A little bit of feedback. I'll give you a question, you give me an answer. Some of you guys may have done this before, some of you may have done a lot of it, some of you may have done a little of it, some of you may have done none of it, but if you had to guess, if we got together every day at spring training and did this for, that was, I'm guessing 8 minutes, 10 minutes maybe, total, from beginning to end. If we did this for 10 minutes every day, which by the way would probably build into 20 minutes, because you'd probably get deeper and more relaxed and not want to come out. So that's usually what happens, because it feels good to feel good, right? Anybody want to guess 2 weeks of doing this in a row, how you might feel mentally, whether it's, on or off the field, really? Does anybody want to make a guesstimate of doing this every day for a couple of weeks? How you might feel after a couple of weeks of doing this? Yep.
I have been meditating a bunch because my mom's big into it. So in the past year I've done it a lot more, and I've become just a lot more of a positive person. I guess you could say. My outlook on life is a lot more positive. I used to focus on negatives a lot. It just made me like kind of more of a chill, positive person, and it's improved a lot of aspects of my life. Like relationship with my girlfriend, like things don't piss me off as much. Relationship with my parents and baseball, and just like relationship with like nature and stuff. Like I don't know, just made everything a lot more positive. It's been pretty cool.
Well, as you know, it starts with off the field, who you are on the field anyway, so it's very, very powerful. I like that you start actually off the field. It's pretty neat. How would you translate that into on the field, how it's helped you?
It's definitely because, I'm super amped up, but it's helped me channel that amped upness a lot more, as opposed to kind of being all over the place. It's allowed me to narrow it as like almost like in a tunnel. It's really helped that out a lot, especially when things go wrong, or when everything's like, if it's like chaos around you in a game, which tends to happen a lot at the end of a ball game, if it's a lot of pressure, it kind of puts me like on an island in the middle like of an ocean. It's weird to say, but like in the middle of an ocean, everything just kind of seems calm in my own mind. It allows me to focus allows me to focus on the present as opposed to whatever is going on.
Yeah, that's really cool feedback. I love it. Anybody else have any input?
Just less cluttered.
Less cluttered.
Like for me, a lot of thoughts go in and out of my head like all the time. I just kind of, just by doing it right there, I just feel less cluttered.
Yeah. Usually when people do this for the first time, or if they haven't done a lot of it, if they do a pretty solid 10 minutes, I usually do more of a 20-minute session, just so you guys know. We kind of rush through a little bit, but people come out, I'm telling you, they have pretty profound experiences, and usually after one time alone, they can start to do the math, like, man, if I did that, like if I got a little less cluttered just from this, what would it be like if I did this every day and I actually started getting a feel for this, right? And I think that's the part you want to grab onto, is like, what would happen? That would be kind of the fun part to find out. Before I go on, does anybody else want to, Dylan, do you have any input at all? Did it?
Yeah, just like my mind gets completely clear.
Mm.
And then I just, like, I don't know, like more calm. And everything, just so much more relaxed and everything.
My guess is that would help you be a lot greater at your process,
Yeah.
more consistent, yeah.
Definitely, yeah, because sometimes I'm bound to get like if I give up like a hit and like walk someone, I get super pissed off.
Right.
And if I just take a couple deep breaths, then I can calm down pretty easy.
I guess where the rubber meets the road, how we'll kind of bring this all together. So we'll probably be 10 minutes max, guys. So just know we're getting to the end here. And then obviously we can troubleshoot a little bit if you want. But where the rubber meets the road is this. Mental practice is knowable, just like anything else you do in life. Unfortunately, in our society, I don't know why, it is coming around now, luckily, but we just haven't made the connection yet, especially in baseball. Baseball tends to be, I think, behind a lot of the other sports. But the Olympics, if you're an Olympian now, meditation, visualization, whatever, it's part of your training. It's just part of it. There was a time on the PGA Tour, if you saw a sports psychologist, they thought you were kind of weird. And now I think they think you're kind of weird if you don't have one. I mean, I'm guessing 48 of the top 50 golfers in the world have a full-time sports psychologist. It's just reality. I mean, it's a mental game. So why wouldn't you have somebody there to help you work on your mental approach? It's not a weakness, it's actually a strength. That was one of the things back when I first started doing this. It was weird. People saw this as a weakness, like a problem. Don't mention anybody. It's the opposite. I would be the guy saying, yeah, I've 30 days in a row with my meditation, man. I love it, man. I'm feeling like kind of where Lenny was going. And I mean, if you're clearer, more relaxed, more focused, less stressed, less anxiety, less pressure, less worried about the future, less worried about the past, less worried about what somebody else said. I mean, these are powerful traits to have as a human being. And all of us are born with the capability of having these. The problem is that we get kind of overloaded by society. It's just the reality. We're just overloaded by a lot of communication things and a lot of social media, and our brains kind of pay the price for that, unfortunately. If you were, which is how I usually start my talk out, if you were to study peak performance, which is the epitome of your best game of your life ever, if you were to study what peak performance is about, peak performance is kind of the opposite of all the stuff that's going on around us. Peak performance is about being immersed in the present moment, absence of thoughts, absence of consequence, clarity, ultimate clarity of mind, a calm presence. That's Michael Jordan probably every game of his career pretty much, because he was so one-pointedness of mind. He was in such a peak state because he had this process. His process happened to be a little bit more like Lenny's, which is he was so competitive and so determined that nothing else mattered in his way. Nothing mattered. He didn't care if it was practice or a game. It's irrelevant. He was great. There's back to that word great. See, we're tying things in. He was great at each moment because it's all he cared about was being excellent all the time, great all the time. And so a lot of human beings have a hard time with that because we're broken down by so many other things. It's just the nature of what's going on around us. So you almost have to be a little bit of an outlier to be mentally consistent. Because if you're not doing mental practice, it's hard to keep up with the Joneses. There's so much stuff that can kind of be beaten on you, right? Where, wouldn't it be nice to go somewhere that Lenny just mentioned or Dylan, that we talked about going to this calm, quiet, relaxed place? Here's the catch. If you do this once a week or once a month and just think, I'll have a pretty good mental game, good enough, you're not giving yourself a chance to build skills. You're not giving yourself a chance to build what I call a default mechanism. Most human beings, remember this, tend to default to pressure and stressors and consequences and results because that's kind of what's in our society. Or at least, I'm not saying you have to feel all that, but that's where our minds tend to focus. Like why we focus a lot on the negative instead of the positive. God knows why, but it seems to happen a decent amount. So if you want your mind to start defaulting more to, if we went around the room, and we're going to do this real quickly, I want you to pick one word that in that 10 minutes you felt like you experienced a positive mental or physical attribute. And if you didn't, that's okay too. You don't lose. Okay? So we're going to use calmness for you already, okay? Can you give me one word that summarizes maybe a positive of what happened in that 10 minutes? Anything. Refreshed. Content.
Refreshed.
Wow.
Isolation.
Isolation.
Peace.
Focus.
I want to say refresh.
So if we got great at all these words, if we start doing this every day to where, let's say there's another 10 or 20, like confidence, happy, focus, discipline. By the way, to do mental practice for 10, 20, 30 minutes, you start learning how to be more disciplined. You have to have more perseverance. You have to have more patience, right? These are all words, by the way, that become skills. So if we start doing this every day, we give ourselves a chance to start getting better at these skills. And what that does is it gives us a chance to replace the old things that tend to grab our attention, where we tend to go to. Because the reason why we tend to go to it, by the way, is not because it's our fault. It's because we're used to it. Makes sense, right? Right? So maybe before you started doing a lot of meditation and you started having better perspective on things. If your girlfriend says something to you that maybe you got mad about before, it might be as much as anything because you're just used to it. And then you gain a new perspective to where now that's your new, what you're used to now is just being chill about it and saying, hey, it's not going to help any of us if we're arguing per se, right? Last question. How does having a mental practice every day, besides the individual benefits we can gain, how does that help us become more process-oriented or better at being consistent with our process? So this is the bonus question. So mental practice can help build all these wonderful qualities, right? But what does it have to do with helping us be more consistent with our process or better at our process?
I feel like you'll be more focused on the good stuff you do in practice rather than, you have like 3 good rounds and then you have 1 okay round. More focused on what you did well than what you did bad.
But I agree with you, but why? Why would mental practice, why would doing what we just did help you be better at that process?
You just have a clear state of mind. You want to, better yourself, so you say that you're doing well rather than I had a bad round.
Good. Yes?
You don't rush into everything, rush into your process. You take your time and you figure out what you need to do and stuff like that instead of just attacking everything at one time.
Right, right.
I think your process is done in the moment, and it kind of helps you focus on the moment instead of the result in the future or past.
The more you do,
Well, through meditation, you focus on breathing, become relaxed, focus, everything else. You get out to the mound or hitting, and you take that breath. It takes you back to that mental spot, that focus, relaxation. That's your spot that nobody else has.
exactly. God, these are good answers, guys. When you go out this year, and this is why it's great to have this talk now, because now you have some information you can actually recall. But just remember this. You know what your process is, right? Start being aware if you leave your process. The key really to, I think, pretty much anything in life is adjustments, awareness, right? So start noticing now. I just took a full round of 8 hacks. Was I really present with the 1 or 2 keys in my process? And I'm not talking about times you're tweaking your swing or whatever. I'm just talking about when you just are really, working on your thing. And start noticing if you come out of your process, because it's as important to start noticing if you come out of your process. Same thing with the pitchers. Next pen you throw, I would hope just from this talk alone, if nothing else, the next pen you throw, I would hope that, man, I'm not really looking at the glove like I thought I was. I mean, yeah, I'm kind of looking at the glove, and for the most part, my pens are fine. But maybe the difference between fine and like great could be the difference between, I don't want to use a result-oriented statement, but it could be the difference between a 20-year career in the big leagues, right? And maybe 3 or 4 years in the minor leagues, and you did your best. I'm just throwing that out there. Maybe, because we all know, by the way, and if you don't know this, you'll find this out quickly. The higher you get in this game, it's really a fine line. It's really a fine line between the guys that are, to me, more mentally consistent than anything. Can I be more mentally relaxed than the next guy? Can I be more mentally present than the next guy? When there's stressors around me, as Lenny said, can I get mentally more back into my process or back into my tunnel? Can I be calm way more often than I am? Because I know being calm is a key to me being successful on the mound. Well, how am I going to get better at being calm more often? Is it going to be because I just think about it? That could help. I think it would help more if 10 minutes a day, every single day, you did something with some form of mental exercise, bless you, where you experienced feeling calm and knew why you experienced feeling calm, and your breath was part of it. And then your breath goes with you throughout the day, to the field, to the mall, wherever. It's always there. Hey, I've been doing this every day for 2 months. It's funny, but when I take a deep breath now, even if I'm at the mall, something just kind of changed a little bit. My shoulders dropped a little bit, or someone said something that bothered me, and all of a sudden a couple of breaths and it really doesn't matter anymore. And this is the attitude I want you to have on the field. It doesn't matter what's going on around you. It doesn't matter what level you're at. It doesn't matter what someone says. It doesn't matter what your ERA is. What matters is your next pitch. And are you great at your process? Right? Or your next at bat. Okay? So I hope, in review, that you take away more than anything from this is have a practice every day. If you miss a day, you're not a bad guy. But it's your career. I'm giving you from 20 years of experience. And if I can give you one thing to really make a difference today, it's going to be this. Have a practice I don't care if it's 2 minutes. Find a space before you go to the field. You guys have a luxury in pro ball where, except for spring training, you can meditate at 11 a.m., 12 a.m., 12 o'clock, whatever. You don't have to be at the field till 2 or 3 or whatever it is, right? Go somewhere every day to feel more calmness, to feel more refreshed, to feel more in your tunnel, to feel more whatever, right? And start making that part of your habit, part of who you are. The second part, the strategy part, what can I tell you? You know what your process is. What does it mean to be great at it? Start noticing when you're not. Because you'll be shocked. Right now it sounds really good before we have the unis on that I know what my process is, and, but as we all know, when the uni goes on, and the lines are chalked, and all of a sudden your batting average now dictates maybe whether or not you go up a level or down a level out of spring training. I mean, this is reality. And I hope when you leave today that really sticks with you, that I really want this one thing to be great at. It's just more relaxing. Just take my one thing, and that can change, but take my one or two things and just be great at that. And start noticing when guys are talking about the stat sheets and their ERA and their batting average and all that stuff, you walk away. I'm telling you, it's noise, it's drama. It has nothing to do with your process. Nothing. Well, guys, I hope it helped. And, this is just a little bolt we did last year. And I always feel like if you could take one thing from today, one thing, and plug it in, and it helps, then it's worth it. And these books, like I said, you don't have to read them today or tomorrow, but at some point, especially spring training, you have a lot of time. We have some time now to do it. You might dig into that, and I would encourage you to really be a student of this stuff. Google meditation, Google visualization. Google some of these things and see what is that world, what's going on in that world. Google peak performance. I don't know. Just play in this world a little bit, because God knows we play in the physical world so much, right? And the mind. Sometimes I think that people think of the mind a little bit as like a scary thing, and there's a lot going on there, or confusing. And to me, the mind is actually this great tool that's actually trying to help us out. But it's hard for it to help us out if we're not helping it out. You know what I'm saying? It'd be kind of like saying that I expect to hit 4 bullets in batting practice today, and I haven't taken hacks for 3 months. Your physical swing needs some loving, right? So the mind is the same way. I don't want this to be a guilt trip, but your mind is trying to help you, even though sometimes it feels like it's hurting us. But it's hard for it to do its job. It's like a car without oil. I mean, if you don't put oil in the car or gas in the car, it's not going to go very far. It's not going to go anywhere. In fact, it's going to hurt the car at some point, right? So maybe that's a new analogy you have to start incorporating. It's give your mind, wire the plants. Don't assume things are just going to get better because you have a new game plan. I hope they do, and I think they will just from having a good game plan. But this mental practice is important. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome.